Okay, fine. The next part is when we click on this drawer, we want it to get animated. So this is our next challenge. So for this, let us close this. Now come back to Blender, and in Blender, now I will save this, go to File, Export, Verstd GLTF. This has already been done. Now I will come to App Manager, and in App Manager, click on the puzzle. Now what happens is in this puzzle, as we keep on adding the code, this becomes a huge mess to manage this. So for this, here you have a new feature where you can create a new tab. I will create a new tab and I am going to call this tab as animation, and I will click create. And in this animation tab, again the event that we want is when we click, what we are going to click now, we are going to click the drawer. So when we click on the drawer, if you come to animation, you have an option here called play animation. So drag, so select this play animation and mount it over here. And what it has to play the animation, there is only one animated object, dryer. So it is going to animate, and it should loop only once. That is, it has to run only once. So with this done, I will save this, run the script, and now if I click here, you can see the drawer opens. Now every time I click, it opens. Whereas I want, this is not exactly correct. So when I click it, when I click once, it should open. When I click again, it should close. So how to actually apply this logic now? Okay, so the logic we are now going to apply here is, to make this work, what we have to now do is, we have to declare a variable. That is, we have to now check first the status of this drawer, whether it is opened or closed. And this animation should play only when this is closed. So for this, what we are now going to do is, you have an option here called variables. So I am going to click on variables, and I am going to create a new variable, and I am going to call this variable as status. So we have created a new variable as status, and now I will drag this set status to, I will just place it above here, and I am going to set this to a value, and the value that I am going to set here will be closed. So for this, what I have to do is, if I come to text here, and I am going to just select any text here, drag it, and I am going to type here closed. So this variable is set to closed. So I am going to set this variable to closed. And now this drawer has to play only when this status is closed. So we have to test a condition now here. And to test the condition here, we are going to use the logic. So what we now do is, I will come to logic, and you have a logic here, if do. Okay, so I will just drag this logic and put it over here. So I have to add this logic over here. And what is the condition I have to test? If, and I have to check a particular condition. And to test this condition in logic, you have this equals. Okay, so I will drag this equals here. The thing we are going to check is whether it is equal. What we are going to check, it is the variable status. So I will drag status here. I will check if status is equal to, I will select this, Control C, copy and paste this, and if status is equal to closed, then play the animation. This animation has to be played. And when this animation plays, is this status after the animation has played. Now what happens? The dryer opens. And now the status of this dryer has to change from close to open. So for this should happen only when the animation has completed its playback. So to do this, in play animation, you have one settings window here. If I click on this, you have one when finished slot. You enable this. So when I enable this, when this has finished, now what I have to do is, I will close this now. I will select this entire block, I will duplicate it, I will drag it over here, and I am going to set this value to open. Okay, so now let us see what happens. I will just save this, and when I execute this, now what happens is, see, it opens, and next time when I click, this is not closing because the status has changed to open. So we have successfully implemented our first logic where we are testing the logic. When it is closed, dryer will open, and when it is open, when you click, nothing is going to happen. But now our next option is, when it is open, this should play the animation in reverse and it is to go inside. So now for this, what we have to now do is, we have to add another if statement which tests whether the status is open. So either we can go to logic and add another if statement, or else the better way is, even if you have one setting window here, and if I click here, there is one more option here called as else if. I will drag and attach it. So now for else if, I will select this block, I will duplicate it, drag it, one second, I will drag this entire black, and when else if status is equal to, I will delete this closed, I will select open and I will duplicate it, and when the status is open, now I will select this animation part, I will duplicate it and I will link it over here. Now one thing is, this animation has to now play in the reverse direction. How to do this? Again for this, in this play animation, click on the advanced playback option. So when you click on advanced playback option, you have various options. Okay, the problem here is, so what, see, if you come to the animation, we had done this dryer animation from frame 1 to frame 30. You can see here. So what I have to now do is, coming back here, I want this to play from frame 1 to frame 30 at the speed of 1 frame. This is fine, in reverse direction. Okay, I have to set these parameters. Now if I save this and execute it, now what happens is, when I click, it opens, when I again click, it closes. See, I click it, it will open, I will click it again, it closes. So now this logic has been successfully applied. So now I will close everything, I will go to file, save, and again I will click on app manager, and if I click on this verge icon, now you can see I can change the material, I can change the wood material, and also I can create this animation. So everything is now working fine. Our app is almost ready, but still there are some little tweaks to be done, and this we are going to discuss it in our next session. Okay, now this application of ours is almost done. Let us do some small tweaks. The first tweak is, see, this shadow is standing or falling on the left hand side. We want this shadow to fall on the back. So we have to make some tweak in this shadow, and this we are going to, now I will close this browser, come back here to the scene, and in the scene if I actually come to the press 1, come to the front view. So I will come here, press 1, come to front view, and when I see this, I will select this sphere and I will switch it off in the viewport. I will off it in the viewport, and you can see the light here. I will select the light, and right now if I come to the top view and if you see it, see the light angle is not very much correct. So what I can do is I'll press G, move it some point over here, and I will also press R, and I will use the rotation tool, and I am going to slightly rotate it in the angle like this. So I will rotate it along the Z axis. So I will just rotate it a little. Okay, so as I rotate it, I will just set this, I will press 0 on the numpad, and now if I set the rotation and if I see the shadows, so I'll press sneak peek and see the shadow. Okay, I want to move the shadow a little to the back. Okay, so that so now I will again press sneak peek and see it. This is okay. So the shadow is going to the back. So we have set this shadow correctly. Okay, now once we have set this, go to file, choose save, again go to file, export, Verse 3D GLTF, and click export. So we have exported it. Now the next part is, after we have exported it, sometimes what happens is if we click on sneak peek and if you see these textures very close, the quality of this texture may deteriorate. So to maintain the quality of this texture, what we are now going to do is, I will come into the shading window over here, and in the shading window, the next thing we are going to set here is, after setting the lighting, now if you come to sneak peek and if you see it, when I rotate this camera, I can even go to the bottom like this. I can zoom out like this. Okay, I can zoom in like this. I can go close. So this is something where we want to add some limitation to this camera so that they cannot go too close or they cannot go under like this. So to avoid this, what we are now going to do is come back to Blender, and in Blender now select the camera. So here we are going to make use of we are going to select the camera, and once camera is selected, now if you come to the camera settings over here, so if I select the camera setting and if I scroll down, you have this Verge 3D settings, and in Verge 3D settings you have one option here, minimum distance and maximum distance. So let us set this minimum distance to 2 and maximum distance to around 5. Okay, this is about how much close or back we can go from the object. And second thing is, you have one vertical rotation limit, and let us set it from 0 approximately to about 85 degree. Okay, and after this, now I am going to go to file, choose save, and now if I click on the sneak peek, see now when I zoom out, this is the maximum zoom out I can go. And if I zoom in, so there is a limitation between 2 units and 5 units. And when I rotate this, when I move down, it is getting stuck here. So I cannot go below this, say. So even now I am seeing some part over here. So to avoid it, what we can now do is, I will close this, come here, and maximum distance I can even make it 4. So let us make it 4. Save this, and now let us see how it works. So when I zoom it out, okay, now see, I cannot go it out, I can rotate it, I can move top, but I cannot go to the bottom. So I cannot go to the bottom. So this way we can add restrictions to this actually the model. So to set the quality of the texture, I will close the browser, come back here to shading. And in shading, now what we are going to do is we are going to select the main body. We are going to select table main, and this is the main model we are using always. And this is the main body. And for this, if I come over here, and in this, if I just select this texture and if I go through these properties here, you have various properties and I can change these properties here. And you can see here you have one property called verge 3D setting, and in this you have one anisotropic filtering, and in this set this ratio to around 8x. And after you set it, now go to file, choose save, and now if I come to default view and if I click on sneak peek, now the quality of these textures will be good. So you can see the textures are more, it appears better now. Okay, so these are the changes that we have done. So we have added limits, we have set the texture quality. Now the next thing here is, since all these models will be loaded on the website, we have to also maintain, if means we have to also monitor the size of our file. Say for example, if I come to app manager and if I open this folder here, interactive table folder, in this interactive table folder, if you see here, see the interactive table GIF, you have one file here, and this is around 28 KB. As of now, you can see this is 28 KB, and you have one interactive table.bin file which is around 105 KB. So these are the files which will be used by the internet. So, whereas this Blender file you need not worry, this is only for your designing. This will not come into operation when you are hosting your website. Okay. So, we are worried about this interactive table.bin and this GLTF file. So, this is right now 28 kilobytes and this is 105 kilobytes. How can we reduce these sizes is, now you can come back to your Blender application, and in Blender application, in your render setting, that is, in your render properties, if you come to render properties here, and in render properties, you have verge 3D settings here. If I scroll down this verge 3D setting, you have one option here called as enable LZMA compression. So if I enable this compression, now I will go to file, choose save, and then I am going to go to file, choose export, and I am going to export this as verge 3D and I am going to save it. Then in the app manager, when I come to this puzzle, in the init, I will now come to this init tab, and you have one option called initialization. In this, I will select this configure application, and here I am going to enable compressed assets. And then I am going to save it, execute it, and now if I come to the app manager and if I run this, now the thing here is, if I come back to the folder and if I show you the sizes, see for example, this file which was 105 kilobyte have been reduced to just 18 kilobytes, and this GLTF file which was 28 kilobytes has been reduced to just 4 kilobytes. So this is very important when you are actually loading it from the internet. So we have to enable this compression. So we have enabled this compression, and with this we have completed this project successfully. Now the final part is to publish it to our website or to our web server, and this we are going to discuss it in our next session.